At exactly 11:02 p.m. my son Brandon sent me a text. It said, "You won't be joining us. Emily prefers to keep it just her family. You've already done your part by paying." That was it. No thank you. No call. Just that. I had been planning this family trip for 3 years. Dreaming, saving, organizing every detail. And now, 2 nights before departure, I sat alone at the kitchen table, my reading glasses slipping down my nose, the soft hum of the fridge the only sound in the house. I had just finished packing sunscreen into small zippered bags I'd labeled by hand, one for each grandchild. My fingers were still tacky from taping little souvenir packs with keychains that said, "Aloha," and "Grandma loves you." Then the phone buzzed again. Another message, "Don't take it the wrong way, Mom. It's just easier this way." I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed, then laid the phone face down. Brandon didn't bother to lie kindly. He didn't even pretend I mattered. I'd been quietly pushed aside. Apparently, I was no longer part of Emily's version of her family. I guess I should have seen it coming. Emily had been brushing me off for a while, correcting me in front of the kids, rolling her eyes when I talked about our honeymoon in Maui. Holidays shifted to her mom's house and I'd only find out the day before. But the moment that told me everything was when she looked past me, not through me but past me, like a waitress who'd already dropped the check. Still, I never thought Brandon would go along with it. He used to write me Mother's Day cards that made me cry. Every March, no matter where he lived, he sent pink tulips. When he was little, he once told his teacher I was his best friend. I still have the drawing from 2nd grade, me in a cape, the words, "My mom saves the day." I guess that version of me didn't exist anymore. I looked at the small duffel I'd packed, 2 old sundresses, a photo of my late husband I planned to set on the dinner table at the beach, and a lavender candle with matches. For a moment I imagined us all barefoot in the sand, lighting it together. My grandson would ask, "Did Grandpa love the beach too?" And I'd tell him how we came here before we could even afford it, how he loved it more because he brought me with him. But that moment would never come. I wasn't invited. I had paid for the beachfront villa, booked the flights, arranged the airport transfers, luau tickets, snorkeling lessons, breakfast baskets, every detail. I even made sure the beds were soft enough for the kids, and that the walkway was easy on Emily's mother's bad knee. I had paid for it all. No. I was just a transaction. Funds wired, now dismissed. I sat there in the dark kitchen as the clock crept toward midnight. I didn't turn on the light. The under-cabinet glow threw shadows across the counters I'd scrubbed just hours before. I didn't feel anger. Or sadness. I felt shame, the kind that makes your chest hollow. The kind that comes from hoping too much. I thought about calling him. I even picked up the phone. But what would I say? That hurt. He knew. "Please let me come." I couldn't beg. Not after everything I gave. I set the phone down. I walked into the den, turned on my old laptop, and opened the folder marked Hawaii Travel Fund. The total blinked on screen. $21,763.84. I had been building that fund since retirement. It started with $10 bills in envelopes. Then came garage sales, tutoring English online at night. Every dollar went into that dream. I'd set up a special account, linked all payments, villa, flights, activities, to one source. Mine. Because I trusted them. Because I thought I had earned that trust. The freeze button hovered under my cursor. One click and all transactions would stop. But I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I opened a blank document. Not to write Brandon back. Not to explain myself. But to start a list. Names of women I knew from church. Carol, whose son stopped calling after her cancer diagnosis. Louise, who still brings her late husband's photo to Bible study. Women who hadn't left the state in decades. Women who knew exactly how this kind of heartbreak felt. Francine helped raise her grandkids, but they didn't even invite her to their graduations. And Beverly told me just last month that no one had ever taken a picture of her on the beach. I saved that photo when I took it. Then I went back to the bank website, hovered over the freeze account button, and clicked. A small box popped up. "Are you sure you want to pause all linked transactions?" I clicked yes. Another message. "All linked cards will be disabled immediately." I hit confirm. Then I leaned back, shut the laptop, and took a long breath. I picked up the souvenir bag I'd made for my youngest grandson. Slowly I took out the little keychain and laid it on the table. Then I unwrapped each of the others one by one. And for the first time in years, I let myself picture a different kind of trip. One where I wasn't an afterthought or a wallet or a burden. One where I was the host. I smiled. Not out of spite, but because for the first time I saw the truth. It was sharp but clean. It started years ago with a mason jar tucked behind the flower in my kitchen cabinet. I called it my dream jar, though no one else knew that. Anytime I skipped something, a new pair of slippers, vitamins, a red box rental, I'd put that money into the jar. $5 here, 7 there. It added up slowly but surely. I saved for 3 years. I canceled cable, gave up my favorite tea, and tutored kids online even when my hands ached. I turned down the heat at night and doubled up on socks. I said no to lunch dates, blaming a tight month, while secretly sliding every extra dollar into that jar. And why? Because I believed in a memory. Just one perfect moment as a family. Hawaii wasn't just a vacation. It was where James and I had honeymooned when we were just 24. We had one shared suitcase and split sandwiches. On day 2 he got so sunburned he wrapped himself in a bed sheet like a superhero. We laughed more on that trip than we ever did again. After he passed, I made myself a promise. I'd bring the family there someday. I wanted the grandkids to feel what he felt. I wanted Brandon to walk the same sand his father did. Maybe it would remind him who we were. Maybe it would bring us closer again. So I planned. I searched for a house big enough for all 9 of us. I called the travel agent more times than I can count, checking on beds, diets, wheelchair access for Emily's mom. I ordered matching t-shirts that said, "Family is Forever, 2023. I chose a beachfront place with a fire pit where we could light candles together, each of us saying something about James. I even had the photo of him I planned to hold, the one where he's laughing, sun in his hair. I imagined the silence, then the tears, then the laughter. But mostly I imagined feeling seen, appreciated, loved. But none of it happened. Somewhere along the way I'd faded out of the picture. And I don't just mean metaphorically, I mean literally. There were fewer group photos. At Thanksgiving Emily would say, "Let's get one with just the kids." Then, one with just our family unit. By the time they finished there was no photo with me. At Christmas they all wore red sweaters with white trees. Mine was blue. I hadn't even known there was a theme. When I asked, Brandon just said, "You're not into that kind of stuff, Mom." But I was. I just wasn't included. Emily took over birthdays, hosted every gathering at her mother's house. I got invited but I felt like a stranger. Once I overheard her tell someone, "Nathan's mom is here too." Like I had wandered in by mistake. And she always smiled like nothing was wrong. But harm doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it just doesn't leave you a seat at the table. So I kept planning the trip. I clung to it like a rope. I told myself that once we were all on that Hawaiian beach with the ocean humming and the kids laughing in the surf, maybe love would pull us back together. That was the dream I built out of quiet sacrifices. Until that text shattered it all in 3 seconds. "You've already done your part by paying." In that moment, every skipped tea, every cold night, every hour squinting at a screen felt pointless. I hadn't built a bridge. I'd built a pedestal they never planned to stand on. I thought about the candles I packed, the fire pit, the circle of hands I imagined. But the truth hit hard. They didn't want my memories. They didn't want my stories. They just wanted the money. And once they had it, they were ready for me to disappear. That night I unpacked my bag. I took out the lavender candle and placed it next to James's photo. Then I sat there in silence, asking myself a question no mother should ever have to ask. When did I become a burden in the very family I built? The next morning I was up before the sun. Not because I had somewhere to be, but because sleep wouldn't come. His words kept echoing in my head. Not even his voice. Just the words, typed and cold, glowing on my screen. "You've already done your part by paying." I drifted around the house like a shadow, folding a blanket that didn't need folding, straightening already straight picture frames, wiping the spotless counter. The silence wrapped itself around me like a heavy sweater. It was in the walls, in my bones. Later that day I opened my email to check a receipt and there it was. Subject line: "Final itinerary, Harper family vacation. Sent from the travel agency." I clicked without thinking. It was a detailed breakdown. Flight times, check-ins, dinner reservations, car rentals, every bit of it organized by me. I scrolled through slowly, already knowing what I was about to confirm. There were 8 names. Brandon, Emily, their 2 kids, Emily's parents, her sister. Her sister's boyfriend. That was it. No me. No, mom. No extra guest. Just 8. Still, I zoomed in looking for anything. Maybe I was guest number 9? Maybe there was a separate email? A missing page? But no. Nothing. No alternate bookings. No attachments. I stared at the screen, then gently closed the laptop like it might shatter from the truth. That evening Emily called. Not Brandon, Emily. Her voice was all sugar. We're just finishing up packing, she said, too bright. I think the final payment goes through tomorrow, right? I paused before answering. Then I asked as gently as I could, is there anything I should bring? Her voice tightened just a bit. Bring, she repeated. Oh no, you don't need to bring anything. I pressed softly. Just wondering if I should pack any games for the kids, or snacks in case they get sick on the flight? Her tone changed. Still polite but firmer now. Marilyn, we've got it covered. Really. You should use this time to rest. Stay home. Focus on yourself. She said it without malice, but it was final. They had planned it without me, and now they were trying to sell it like a favor. After the call, I stood at the kitchen window and stared at the old bird bath James installed 20 years ago. The water was still. No ripple. Just like me. Not angry. Not surprised. So I walked to the hallway closet, pulled down the fireproof lockbox and opened it. Inside were the documents I'd kept since day one. The account forms, the receipts, the fund setup. My name was there in bold. Account holder, Marilyn and Walker. No authorized users. No cosigners. No shared access. I opened my banking app. The Hawaii Travel Fund. $21,763.84. 6 linked cards. All drawing from my account. All in my name. That's when it really hit me, not just that they'd left me out, but how easily they did it. How entitled they'd become to my sacrifices. It was never a family trip. It was a transaction. And I'd been the bank. But banks can close. I didn't freeze the account that night. I didn't scream or sob or call anyone. I just turned off my phone, made myself peppermint tea and sat quietly with it. I let it wash over me, the betrayal, the truth, the clarity. They hadn't forgotten me. They erased me. And worse, they assumed I'd be too quiet, too grateful, too worn down to say anything. They forgot who raised them. That night I slept. All the way through. No restlessness, no tears. Just sleep. And in the morning I didn't make a single dramatic move. I didn't storm around or announce what I'd found. I opened the app. I checked the linked cards. 6 total: resort, car rental, airline, and 3 for incidentals. All set to auto-pull from my fund. Then I clicked over to the settings. There it was, freeze account. A message below read, activate to block all charges. Linked cards will be disabled. No transactions can occur without verification. 1 click. That was all it would take. But I didn't do it, not yet. Instead I opened my calendar. I found the date they were scheduled to leave, and I circled it in red. Their flight out of LAX was set for 10:45 a.m. If they got there 2 hours early like most people do, that meant check-in would start around 8:15. Right when they'd be standing at the gate assuming everything was paid and in place. That's when the cards would stop working. But only if I stayed quiet. Only if I chose not to warn them. And still I didn't press the button right away. Because once you decide to stop being the role people expect, the sweet mom, the generous grandma, the quiet woman who always gives and never asks, you can't go back. That mask, once dropped, stays off. And I needed to be sure. So I gave them one final chance. I sent Brandon a message. Just me. Let me know if you'd like help with the kids' bags. I can bring extra motion sickness bands for Olivia. I saw he read it. An hour passed. Then no answer. No, thanks, Mom. Not even a thumbs up. Just silence. And that was my answer. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a miscommunication. It wasn't Emily's doing. This was about power. About people who treat love like a bank account, expecting endless deposits but never making one back. I wasn't invited, I was used. But no more. I opened the banking app, hovered over the toggle, and this time I clicked. The screen blinked. Freeze mode on. All transactions paused. Manual authorization required. That was it. No warning sent. No alerts. Just silence. The same kind I'd been given. They'd learn the truth the way I had, quietly, unmistakably. I leaned back in my chair, sipped my tea and let the moment settle. This wasn't about revenge. This was reality. One they created. I simply stopped paying for it. For 2 days I said nothing. Emily posted a picture of beach hats online. I didn't comment. Brandon sent a message to the family chat. Ready for takeoff. I left it unread. When my youngest granddaughter sent a voice note, her little voice bubbling, "Grandma, we're going to see sea turtles." I saved it, held it to my heart and whispered, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. But someone had to show your parents what presence means." Then I opened a new file on my laptop. Not for them. For me. I titled it, "Those Who Deserve to Be Seen." First name, Carol. Then Beverly. Please. Francine. Denise. Women like me, used, ignored, overlooked. But not broken. And under each name I started planning. Not pity trips. Restoration. Not gifts. Respect. If I was going to be the one holding the checkbook, then I'd decide who was worth the trip. That night I left the window open. The wind slipped through like a long-held secret finally released. They had their luggage packed, their printed passes ready. But flights don't run on smiles. They run on trust. And theirs was gone. They left for the airport with straw hats and smug grins. I saw it all unfold online. Emily posted a selfie from the Uber. The kids smiling, Brandon flashing a peace sign. Her caption read, "Off to paradise. Family only." That last part? Cut deep. I saw it while sipping coffee from an old chipped mug. The same one Brandon used when he made me Mother's Day breakfast at age 9. The feelings it stirred weren't nice. But I didn't turn away. I watched. The airport. The gate. The check-in counter. The excitement. Her mother posing like she was on a red carpet. 8 smiles. 8 tickets. And not one for me. Then the message came in. "Brandon, hey. Getting weird error at check-in. Can you check the travel account real quick?" I didn't reply. 5 minutes passed. Another text. "The card's being declined." Any idea why? Still silence from me. Then came the calls. First every 10 minutes. Then 5. Then constant. Voicemails followed. "Mom, it's me. Call me. We can't get the rental confirmed. They're saying funds are gone. Can you check? The kids are freaking out. Please just let me know if something happened." I kept the phone face down on the table. The clock read 8:27 a.m. Their flight was at 10:45. I pictured them at the counter, cards being swiped over and over. Emily's face tightening. Her parents asking questions. Brandon sweating, trying to act calm. Then a new voicemail came in, quieter than the rest. "Mom, if this is because of the text, can we please talk?" No apology. No regret. Just desperation now that things weren't going as planned. So I said nothing. Then the resort emailed. Not a phone call. Just a subject line. "Booking cancellation confirmed." It was addressed to me. "Dear Miss Walker, your request to cancel your villa has been processed." The message was simple. "Due to the account freeze, all charges have been reversed. As sole account holder, no action is needed. We hope to welcome you in the future." I read it once. Then again. Finally, I let out a quiet, bitter breath. They wouldn't be welcomed. Not this time. Maybe not ever. At 10:40 a.m. Brandon texted again. "We're boarding. Call me please." I didn't. They were airborne with no place to land, because money only guarantees something when there's trust. And theirs had run out. By noon I had over 50 missed calls. From Brandon, Emily, even her mother. I didn't listen to any of the voicemails. Said I took a walk. The sky was clear, the air warm, birds chirping. A neighbor waved and asked if I had spring break plans. I smiled and said not yet, but soon. When I got home the phone had finally stopped. But there was one new message. From Brandon, "Look, if this is about what we said, maybe we messed up. I don't know. Things got twisted. But the kids are here. They're excited. We can fix this. Please just unlock the account. We'll talk when we're back." They wanted their trip, and to save the apology for later. They wanted forgiveness without accountability. Joy funded by the woman they left behind. I didn't respond. I didn't explain. As I owed them nothing. And sometimes silence is the only voice loud enough to be heard. 2 days after their flight, the refunds rolled in one by one. First the villa, then the car rental. Airline taxes, chef deposit, tour packages, luau, snorkeling, everything. One line at a time my account refilled. The travel fund that had been emptied by love was full again. But this time love wouldn't be blind. This time I'd spend it differently, not for show, not for people who saw me as a walking wallet in beige shoes. This time I'd spend it on women who understood the value of memory because they'd spent lifetimes giving without being seen. I pulled out my old notebook, the one with James's fishing recipes, his favorite songs, and every grandchild's name. I flipped to a clean page. At the top I wrote 3 words. The forgotten women. Then the names followed. Carol from church, a widow whose kids hadn't visited in 5 Christmases. Francine, who still wore her wedding ring even though her husband left 30 years ago. Beverly, who cared for her brother with dementia and slept beside his hospital bed. Nora, who once told me, the worst part of aging isn't the pain, it's being invisible. Lucille, my old neighbor, a retired librarian who had never seen the ocean. And Diane, who once drove me to the clinic after I twisted my ankle and wouldn't let me pay her back. I made 6 phone calls. Each one started with a hesitant hello, then silence, then disbelief. You want to take me where? Hawaii, sweetheart. Just 1 week. No catch. No catch. But why me? Because someone should. Because you matter. This time I booked it under my own name. 1 villa. 6 women. 7 days. No group chats. No hashtags. No posts about family only. I called the travel agent with different names. I asked for 6 separate beds. And 1 big table so we could all eat together each night. Then I pulled out the photo of James. The one I had planned to set at the center of our family table. Still smiling. Still mine. I had it enlarged and framed, not in gold but in soft walnut, a wood that grows darker, richer with time. I wrapped it in bubble wrap and packed it gently in my suitcase. The villa was perched above the ocean. Palm trees swayed like dancers. The breeze carried the scent of salt. We walked inside and I placed James's photo right in the center of the dining table. No one asked me to move it. No one said a word. That night we sat under string lights. The sound of waves echoed through the open doors. Carol wore a bright scarf and kept topping off everyone's wine. Beverly raised a glass and said, to finally being somewhere I don't have to clean. Francine cried when she saw the ocean from her window. We didn't talk about the people who forgot us. We talked about the ones we still remembered. We didn't list our wounds. We showed each other the strength that grew around them. And James, my James, sat right there with us. Smiling. Every evening we lit 1 candle next to his picture. And each woman said something she wished someone had told her at 30. I see you. You're allowed to rest. You don't have to earn love. Your story matters. You are not a burden. You are never invisible. On our last night, we walked the shore in silence. The stars looked close enough to touch. The water curled around our ankles. The moon lit up every wrinkle, every curve, every scar, like silver. I looked at the women beside me. They were women who had given without asking, loved without limits, endured without applause. And somewhere between the ocean breeze and the clinking of glasses I realized, I hadn't just taken them on a trip. I'd brought them home. Home to themselves. Home to each other. Because when a memory is shared with the right people, it stops being fleeting. It becomes legacy. 3 days after we returned I got an email. I had just come in from a walk, my skin still warm from the sun, the scent of plumeria clinging to my clothes. My suitcase was half unpacked. A sliced pineapple wrapped in the fridge. I sat at my desk, opened my inbox, and there it was. Just want to clear the air, from Brandon. I stared at it for a while before clicking. Hi Mom. We're back now. It didn't exactly go as planned. Some things went wrong. Maybe that was on us. I'm not saying we handled it all perfectly. Tanya says hi by the way. She didn't mean to leave you out. She just had a vision for the trip. You know how she is with structure. Anyway, I've been thinking, maybe we weren't fair. Maybe we messed up. The kids are confused and we're trying not to drag them into all this. That said, we're in a bit of a financial mess. We had to rebook a bunch of things on credit. So, if you're able, could you return the deposit we gave you for the trip? Or part of it? I know you're probably hurt. But we're still family. Me know. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time. My eyes always landed on the same sentence. Could you return the original deposit? I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence wrap around me. They weren't seeking healing. Not reconciliation. Just a refund. They didn't invest in togetherness. They didn't offer partnership. Only assumption. Assumption that I would pay. That I would stay silent. That I'd feel lucky just to be included, even as a background character. I opened the sent folder and found the receipt. Every single payment came from me. My account. My name. My sacrifice. There was no deposit from them. No shared vision. Just expectation. They wanted me to pay for their choices. And honestly, if it weren't so familiar, it might have been funny. Because that's what moms do, right? Foot the bill. Bite their tongue. Get left out of the photo. But still buy the frame. I closed my eyes and pictured that dining table in Hawaii. 6 women. Clinking glasses. Passing bread. James's photo smiling in the center, framed in warm walnut. No demands. No guilt. Just peace. Then I thought about Brandon's message. No true apology. No remorse. Just Tanya's stress, vague regrets, and the subtle nudge that I should just understand. But understanding doesn't mean surrender. And love without respect? That's not love at all. I hovered over the reply button. Then closed the tab. There was nothing left to say. Because if someone needs you to explain why betrayal doesn't come with a refund, they were never worth the explanation. I folded the laptop shut and went to pour a glass of iced tea. A bird flew low across the yard, brushing the wind chime James had hung for our 35th anniversary. It rang a single soft note. Light as memory. I smiled. No apology had come. But I didn't need one. I had something better. Clarity. And I had kept what was mine. Later, I sat on the beach with my toes buried in the warm sand, watching the tide roll in like breath itself. The sky was painted in that soft, unreal pink you only see on postcards, or in memories you thought you'd forgotten. Behind me, laughter floated from the villa. Not loud. Not performative. That deep, true laughter that rises when you're safe. Francine was telling the story about the time she caught the wrong bus and missed her own rehearsal dinner. Carol was trying to teach Beverly how to hula, flower tucked behind one ear. Diane hummed a lullaby under her breath, and sweet Nora? She was writing a postcard to herself, addressed to a home that hadn't seen her name in over a decade. I looked at them and thought, this is what family feels like when no one's performing. Just presence. Just joy. Just permission to be. It took me years to learn that love doesn't speak in volume. It speaks in constancy. In choosing people again and again, even when it's not convenient. That night after dinner, we gathered outside on the patio. I pulled out the last candle. Lavender. I had brought 7. 6 were already lit, each by a different woman, each flame carrying a memory, a name, a goodbye they were never given the space to speak. Now it was my turn. I set James's photo in the middle of the table. And the women fell quiet. I held the match between my fingers. This was supposed to be for them, I said softly, for my family. But maybe it was always meant for this instead. I struck it. The flame rose quickly, then settled into a steady glow. I lit the candle and watched the wax begin to melt, slow, sure, like time itself. Beverly reached over and gently placed her hand on mine. I didn't think I'd feel this again, she whispered. Peace. Gratitude. Think I mattered. Her voice shook as tears filled her eyes. And I didn't expect it to come from someone like you. Someone like me? I asked, smiling gently. Someone who knows, she said, what it's like to give everything, and still be left standing outside the door. I didn't answer. I just held her hand tighter. After the candle had burned for a while, I stood and walked slowly toward the shoreline. The others followed, barefoot, quiet. Each woman carried something small. A ribbon, a shawl, a slip of paper with a name they'd never spoken out loud. We made a circle in the sand. No speeches. No instructions. Just silence. And then I said it, not to them, not even to James, but to the part of me that had waited the longest to hear it. I'm not sad anymore. Because I wasn't. I wasn't angry. I wasn't waiting on a call from Brandon. I wasn't hoping Emily would have some great realization. I wasn't clinging to the idea that one day they'd finally understand all that I had carried. I had stopped carrying it. And for the first time in decades, I felt light. I thought of that email. The one that tried to turn apology into negotiation. I thought of all the years I spent trying to be enough for people who never really saw me, unless they needed something. And I smiled. Not the kind of polite smile you give at family dinners when you're handed a paper plate and told to sit with the kids. No. This was the smile that comes when you finally realize you were never the problem. If you believe being forgotten isn't the end, but the beginning of something better, then subscribe to The Voice Inside today. Because when a grandma speaks, the world finally listens.